Hello?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. All right, everybody ready?
Ready.
All right, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. I had like professionals ahead of me that know how to wing this, and I have a speech of sorts. My name is Ryan Couch. I'm from Kaymont, Kaymont Balloons, Kaymont Consolidated. We go by a couple different names. You want me over here? Okay. Oh yeah, right, the noise thing. All right, so like I said, my name is Ryan. If in the past 3 years, if any of you have called Kaymont, you've more than likely talked to me. My primary job at Kaymont is to deal with all balloon sales, whether it be the high altitude balloon enthusiasts, all the way to military and some government stuff. That's a little bit over my pay grade. Just to start off, Kaymont was founded in 1978 by my grandfather and my grandmother. They primarily started selling scientific instruments like the rotronics, humidity, temperature sensors. They also dealt with radiation shields and radar reflectors, which were used prior to GPS being available. So the government would buy these radar reflectors, and they'd attach them to the bottom of balloons, and that is what initially started Kaymont's involvement with selling balloons. Sorry? The radar reflectors that they initially sold were only about 2 feet wide, and they would use those. It was initially at, trying to try and keep going in order. It was used for the environmental studies, but Kaymont sold the radar reflector and a balloon, and they called it the wind package, and they sold it to places like White Sands Missile Range, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Cape Canaveral, Yuma, and Point Mugu, and Patuxent River. Those were all different places that used this wind package, and they would launch this prior to testing missiles and things like that, and this was in the 70s and 80s primarily, into the early 90s. The National Weather Service then kind of picked up on the fact that they were hearing about these great balloons that all these private missile ranges or individual missile ranges were using, and the satellite stations started picking up on it, and then that's when we started getting actual government contracting. And now today we are the, let's see, sorry, this is tough to keep looking back. So, oh yeah, so they use I'm lost. They use the radar reflectors along with the balloons up until they started developing these radiosondes, and this is what the government uses today, along with our balloons, and it's pressure, temperature, humidity, and GPS, so they can track it without having to use the radar reflectors. It's a little bit more cost effective, and these things, they're kind of just throwaways. Today, Totex balloons supplied by Kaymont are the only balloons that meet the government requirements. These balloons were used by the government for a few reasons. The first being that they're extremely reliable. The government says that up to 90%, at least 90% of all balloons launched have to meet their requirements. So if they're launching to 26 kilometers, it has to reach 26 kilometers 90% of the time. And that's as long as it's within their certain parameters. So if it has to reach 26 kilometers when you launch it at 70 degrees on the ground. If they launch at 71 degrees and it doesn't reach 26, it's not considered a failure because they launched outside of parameters. But 70 degrees, that's just an example. Where are we at? The other reason is that they are also very environmentally friendly. A lot of balloons, you get the Powons or the Woyis, which is the Chinese. Powon is Indian. They use compounds in the balloons. Totex is completely 100% natural latex. So when these balloons burst, especially for the Weather Service who goes through over 7,000 balloons every month. They fall onto the earth and they're completely biodegradable, which is something that for a lot of the earth-friendly people, it makes them very happy. Let's see where I'm at. So all the balloons are handmade, and that includes pouring the material. If any of you have used, you've all used balloons, and you get an 800-gram balloon or 1,200-gram balloon, so on and so forth. They're all made by hand and to order. So when we put in an order to, when we put in an order, sometimes you guys might have something, or like the National Weather Service will put in a large order. It'll take 90 days because tow techs make sure everything is fresh. So when you get it from us, you're getting the freshest balloon possible. And so, yes, that is correct. We import. It's just we've been dealing with them for the past 30 to 40 years, and yeah, they are in our opinion, the best. And the government has tried out other balloons, and they've also tried to use domestic balloons, but unfortunately, it didn't have the same results. I mean, it's fortunate for us, but but what brings us all here today is something that now you'll have to bear with me because in my line of work, I deal mainly with the students that are doing cameras, not so much the satellites and the APRS, or APRS, you guys call it. So I hear that you guys have been launching for 20 plus years. But one of the big things that's helped my business boom was the MIT project, Project Icarus. And they were the ones that they said that they reached 93,000 feet with a 350-gram balloon, and I think it was like over 100 cubic feet of or 65 cubic feet of helium with an 800-gram payload. I get this call probably once a week, asking kids saying, "Yeah, I want to do the MIT project," and I have to stop them in their tracks because they have this idea that they're going to do a project for $100. And that's including a $35 balloon and their cheap cell phone. And now it's possible to do a cool project like that, but they're not going to get to like 95,000 feet. This is more likely going to get to 70,000 feet. And I always try and make sure people understand that. With this configuration, like I said, it's 70,000 feet. Too much helium. The balloon's too small to even want to try and reach that altitude. If they were to get that altitude, they would have more than likely had a floater. They wouldn't have recovered the package. Yes?
I talked to the students who did that flight, and they were guessing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get to that.
They're using a find me spot, which does not work.
Yeah. So they had basically taken their data of saying, we took pictures of every, so many seconds, and this is the round trip. So it was more likely that they had a floater, and they just had a longer distance across than actually up.
They actually did, one of the students, he did get his ham radio license, and he cleared from APRS.
Oh, now because I think it was Kevin Lee or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've spoken to him a few times because when I first started with the company, I had to do some research and make sure I was getting everything correct. Yes?
Ryan, were you ever contacted by the media, and did you ever set them straight? A couple articles I read about MIT's was that they're the first one who ever did anything like this with balloons.
Right, and that was
no clue.
Exactly, and that's why I was steered straight today. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was steered straight today, and that's why I said my eyes were opened up. Hearing people that have been doing this for over 20 years. Yes.
In fact, there was another student at MIT that did one 5 years before that.
Yeah. Well, they said I don't know if anything. They said it's the first time with camera. I'm not sure. But I know this was still to this day, I still get calls. Everyone references this particular project as being their starting point. But like I said, it's my eyes can be opened every day, and I love to learn. That's why one of the reasons I came here was just to learn from you guys, because you guys are the professionals. I only know what listen. Yeah, you guys know what you're doing.
You're the only professional in the room. You're the only one making money off it.
So yeah, so I spent the past 3 years, where am I? Yeah. I spent the past 3 years taking phone calls and exchanging emails with, I'm probably sure some of you, I know some of you, and everyone has a different idea about what their capsule should encompass, how it will look, and the functions it'll provide. Will it be simple payload, or one that only includes basic things like a camera, backup battery, GPS locator in the form of an old cell phone, which I know is popular, and maybe some hand warmers, because that's popular too, because you don't want your equipment to freeze when it gets up to those high altitudes. Or do you want your launch to be a scientific study, one with data loggers for pressure, temperature, humidity, maybe cosmic radiation? It seems like the only thing that can stop an HABer is the limit of their imagination, and maybe money too, because I know things can get expensive. That first one was just a simple package. You can see it's a small styrofoam cooler, camera. I think that's an antenna on the top. And then this looks more up your guys' alley. Custom electronics. I think that's a radio transmitter. I don't know. You guys probably know better than me. This is the NOAA Earth System Research Lab, or the ESRL. And they're actually based out of Colorado. And this was a moisture collection, extremely advanced, but you can see that even National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association uses styrofoam and tape to get everything together. I'm sure there's some WD-40 in there too, because if you can't fix it with duct tape, then you need to fix it with WD-40.
We trained them well.
This was probably one of the cooler capsules that I've seen, and these people were actually based off of Long Island, where I come from. This was Eagle 1. It was a father-son team, and they launched this balloon up. I think they hit around 85,000 feet with this, but I just thought the design of it was just really cool. It was a styrofoam sphere that they cut in half, hollowed out, and they sprayed a shell on it so it wouldn't be damaged. So many of you know that there's a lot of cost, risk that goes into developing the package to make it worthy to travel in near space. From cameras and GPS, the two main pieces of electronics, to the balloon and helium, the core items of this experiment can be quite costly. So you want to make sure that you're going to get it back. Many people go beyond the basics, though. While doing your research, some of you may have come across the toy train in space. Anybody know that? Yeah. Raise your hands. That was Ron Fugelseth, and I've actually spoke to him many times. This is Stanley the Train. His son is obsessed with him, and I spoke to Ron a few times actually, but they actually have like 10 of these because his son just goes through them like crazy. But they launched this up into space, and if you've seen the video, for those of you who haven't, I recommend watching it. Ron is an animator, so he actually animates that face. To go with the reaction of the balloon popping. It's like the excitement is on his face when the balloon is starting to ascend and like looking around, and then it goes to sheer terror when the balloon pops and starts falling. So it's really amazing, but that got him noticed. So I spoke to him before and after this, guiding him on how to launch, and because of this, he actually got featured on Larry the Cable Guy's Only in America. They did their Roswell episode, and he assured them this is Larry with the alien on the back, and that's one of their cameramen's wedding ring. Unfortunately, that whole setup slipped off the pole, and they didn't recover that. So someone had some explaining to do. I'm hoping it's doing okay. Well, it's not Ron. It's like I said, it's the cameraman's wedding ring. But people want to do interesting things. Then you have this is only in high school. They were doing the Marathon to the Sky. I don't know if you guys know about the Global Space Balloon Challenge. I've been keeping in contact with them. I was going to try and include some of the results today, but basically their goal was to go to 41.2 kilometers or 42.1 kilometers, 26 miles, 26.2 miles into the atmosphere. That payload weighs 220 grams and consists of the APRS or APRS antenna for tracking. And I'm really hoping they hit it because what happened was they actually put a small camera in there and they did some testing and everything fried. So they got set back a little bit. Apparently they're getting the camera today, and I wish them luck because for a team of high school students to be, the leader of the group is a 9th grader by the name of Saad Mirza, and I talk to him, probably once a week, just making sure everything's going okay. And he's a great kid, and it's a great group, and it's all young students that are just really involved, and they really want to have a successful launch.
That's upstate New York, right?
Yes.
Ryan, what size balloons do you use?
They are actually using our 4,000 gram balloon. That is something new that we've brought to the table. It was always available, but it's at quite a large cost. I have a picture along here in a minute.
Do you know if it's hydrogen or helium?
They are going to deal with helium because they did a news report and their helium is being sponsored, but then they wanted to switch to hydrogen, but they realized the guy already got his name out there as supplying the helium, so they didn't want to well, they know that they could get better results with hydrogen. It's just now it's they're almost roped into it.
Another question.
Yes.
What kind of deal can you give us all on 4,000?
Well, that's an $800 balloon, so I'd have to see. I mean, the 3,000s you're looking at $400 right now, but we set up deals. They were all across superlaunch.org, or they were mentioned there. I know. But we can talk about that later. Let's see. All right, so more commonly for the people that I deal with, they use the spot transmitters. That's more for ground-based when they're trying to recover, and your GoPros. We know they're rugged. I think even Zach has one on the top of his rig, and it's like most people, they say, what should I use? And I'll recommend the spots because I know that I've had many customers that use them, and they've had a high success rate in recovering their packages. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then let's see. Oh, that's the balloons. So for the more advanced and licensed users, like it seems like most of you in here, there's the APRS tracking. And I actually wrote it in here. I said, I'm no expert in this field, but from what I gather, it's a very useful and accurate way of tracking the package using amateur radio frequencies. Am I correct? Okay. There you go. When it comes to balloons, we at Kaymont provide a full range of sizes from every level of experience and budget. From the HAB 600 to the HAB 400, there's a balloon for everyone. One thing that I'll get to that. But here you have, is there a laser pointer on this thing? Yes, there is. All right, so that's a 30-gram balloon. That's like we call a ceiling balloon. The pie balls are hundreds. Okay. The ceiling balloon is used to figure out cloud ceiling. Pilot balloons for wind. That's a 100-gram. That's a 150, 200, 300. That's a 350 right there. Now we're getting into our realm of the balloons that more people use. 350 I don't recommend unless it's like a 1 or 2 pound payload. But you have the 600, 800, what's a 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, that's a 2,000. That balloon weighs 5 pounds, 3,000, almost 8 pounds. This right here, Totex even has to ship it in almost a bag the size of a garbage bag because it's a 10-pound balloon. It is massive. I think I brought 2 of those with me. I can't remember though. I'm hoping to sell them. We'll see. Maybe like a 1,500 tomorrow. I'm thinking about it.
Randy, so you have data as to how high they should go for the payload that it's carrying?
Yes.
Okay.
And
is that accessible?
yeah, I have my data sheets, but I also, I think a very popular research these days is HabHub. You guys know HabHub? HabHub was developed by the Cambridge University Space Flight Program, and that is a resource that for a time was actually private, and they gave me access to it, and I use that almost religiously because it's extremely accurate, because you can plug in your what balloon you're using, your weight of the payload, and then you can either do it by what ascent rate you want or by what your final go altitude is, and it'll calculate helium use and things like that.
That's NAS like that.
Yeah.
Almost everybody's familiar with it.
Yeah, it used to be. It also used to be like CUSF, but now you can just go to HabHub, and it actually has a full resources, including like tracking and landing predictions and things like that. They really turned it into a full service. So you can get your balloons, but one thing that we can't control, and I know it was talked about for this weekend, is helium. That's extremely expensive and almost impossible sometimes to find, depending on where you're from. Sometimes it's even the most expensive part of your whole deal. You are using hydrogen tomorrow, right? Yeah. Yes.
Do any of your customers, have they said that they've tried to use natural gas, and what kind of success?
I didn't get natural gas. Someone asked me about methane once, I think.
I actually launched my first balloon in 1968, and that was a natural gas balloon that we flew as a surplus balloon, probably 300 grams. It had
No spark.
gas well in our woods, and it took off. It had some lift, but I wouldn't say. I'd say it was probably it was 50-50 that I'm still here.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys understand why the helium shortage, or there is a helium shortage, but that it has to do a lot with helium. There we go. MRI machines and the production of computer chips are two of the leading reasons why. Hydrogen has and its liquid state is almost close to very absolute zero, which is negative 273 degrees Celsius or negative 459 degrees Fahrenheit. Extremely cold. Because of the powerful magnets that are used in the MRI machines, they need something to cool it. GE is actually currently working on a system that uses little to no hydrogen in order to cool, but until then, it's still, what did I say, hydrogen? Yeah, helium, sorry. It uses very little to no helium, but as of right now, they still need it. And in our technological days right now, computer chips are in like everything. So they need a lot of it to do the same thing. The other reason why it's so limited is because it's not something, a gas that we can make, especially with all these balloons being launched. When we're launching 200 cubic feet or 300, depending on your payload weight, once it's released into the atmosphere, it's gone. We have a limited amount on Earth. All right, so this, if you ever call up and say, how much helium do I need to use, this is a formula that I recommend you guys, if you can, write it down. It's extremely useful and very simple, and it gives you very accurate results. I've compared to this number to the stuff on HabHub, and it's always within, about plus or minus 5 cubic feet. Now, it's your payload weight in grams. If you have it by pounds, then just times it by 452. Then you times that by 1.5. That gives you your actual lift, plus your balloon weight, and then divided by 28.2, which is a good number to use for the lift of helium. That'll give you your cubic feet needed. This is for helium. But certain values may change. So if you were to say, if you wanted a faster ascent rate, so you could burst sooner, you don't want to have to travel as far, you could change that number to like a 1.6. and that'll make your balloon go up faster, pop sooner, come down with less mileage on it. If you want to go up slower, gain more altitude, obviously, then you just bring that down to a 1.4 or 1.5. You can adjust as needed.
So what are the units of that, helium in grams?
I'm sorry? Which part?
What are the units of that equation when you solve it?
Oh, and sorry, it equals cubic feet of helium.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see here. Oh, another question that I often get is, how do I know when I have enough helium in the balloon? Right, that's you can use the valves and things like that. But I think one of the simplest ways to do is using a water jug or sand. And this is actually from that earlier picture of NOAA GMD. They're using the same method. It's a little system with a weight. As they're filling, once it's able to lift that, they know that it's at the proper volume to launch their balloon.
Right. I have a question.
Yes.
I tried to buy one of those surplus, but it was with a whole bunch of other stuff. Do you know where to buy that?
I don't. I mean, I'm sure I could do some research if you want to leave me some contact information.
And also there's a wire, one of the NWS sites that I saw, they have this really neat reverse loop. It's a loop with two wire handles, and then you squeeze it, it opens up, put it over the nozzle, release it, it clamps down. Really nice. I had one, but I don't know where it is. The guy gave me at an NWS site.
It's just like a spring, almost like a spring clip. You squeeze it and it opens up. Nah, I mean, we don't really deal with this aspect. We're really primarily balloons. We do talk with them, and we're always talking with them, so it's possible. Like I said, if you want to talk afterwards, I'd be more than happy to help.
Get into the nozzle business, make some bucks.
It's possible. You know, we're always looking for new ways to help out, but we have been asked, like, do you guys have anything else? So we do have parachutes for lower volume and lower weights, but we do recommend going with Rocket Man or Sphere Chute. I know they have high quality parachutes, and they're actual like nylon material, I believe. Ours are like a plastic film. They're meant for like 250 to 500 grams of payload.
Don't get into the parachute business.
Yeah, no, I'm going to stay away from that. So yeah, I think this is the fact that National Weather Service is using this method as well. I do recommend this. You can do it very simply with if you use like a piece of PVC pipe like they have in the neck, just so it doesn't clamp on the weight doesn't cinch the neck as you're filling, and then you just take a piece of rope, hang it with that the water, and as soon as it lifts, you know you're good. They also ask if like they need a regulator or if how to measure it. We've had this discussion within the office, and if you're using just some kind of rubber hosing that goes straight from the tank into your neck, we don't see any problem with that. It's just make sure you're not going full blast because you don't want to damage the balloon from obviously rapid inflation.
Add to that, don't do that with hydrogen.
Yeah, and obviously don't do that with hydrogen. I speak on helium terms because hydrogen is a ballgame I'm not trying to get into.
I would highly recommend, if you're giving this kind of advice, like not getting into parachutes for liability concerns, to recommend not only a regulator, but a two-stage regulator.
If you guys have any information on that, again, pass it my way. Because I've looked into it and I can't really find much. I know there's
The danger of not using a regulator is so severe. A one stage is one thing, but I highly recommend a two-stage regulator.
just for flow purposes or?
Yes.
Okay.
For safety, for controlling the flow.
Okay.
Ryan, I basically use one from a welding supply house. You can use the ones they use for party balloons. You remove the rubber nozzle.
Yeah.
Put in a quarter 20 adapter, and then run a hose off of that. And but that's pretty limited.
Yeah.
But the dual stage regulator, they sold for about 90 to 100 bucks, and they're well worth
The investment. That's good to know. Like I said, I'd love to take that information later.
An aside, because the K bottles are tanks, the connection is based on the gas itself, whether it's helium, argon, oxygen,
Right.
hydrogen. But once you get the dual stage regulator, they last a long time.
Do they ever go bad? Can you have a 10-year-old regulator?
They could, but usually there's safety things built into the regulators. And
2 minutes.
early on in ballooning, there were a lot of horror stories about a hose getting away and slicing through things.
Yeah.
Flapping away.
I've had one go bad, but I loaned it to Rocket City.
I hate to interrupt. I hate to interrupt. I just have to get through this really quick because I'm out of time. So they say we'll go through the filling, but I also make sure, and you guys should do this the same, make sure you're wearing gloves when handling. You don't want your oils to get on there and damage the outside of the balloon. And they also say how to seal it. This is one recommended method. This neck looks really small to me, so I don't know which one it is. It might not even be one of mine.
It was a 6 or 12, I think that's my photo.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
But yeah, it's folded in half and it's sealed tight. Other people I've heard using rubber bands because it won't damage, but tight rubber bands and you go over it many times. This is just making sure it's clearly marked. This is perfect for trying to find it on a field of green when it would be out here. And then launching, nice open area. And yeah, look, no wind. Lucky ducks, right?
Early love their ground station.
Oh, this is Noah actually. That's that same right there. That's the his name's Emmett Hall. He works for Noah, but that's that the vapor collection. So closing statement would be, so when all these elements have been ordered, tested, fitted, epoxied, tested again, what's your final goal? When you spend upwards of $500 on a balloon, the camera, GPS, or APRS, and some really expensive helium or cheaper hydrogen, it's to expand your understanding of the world, to reach beyond the borders of the Earth, which we feel confined to. Even though if you really think about it, we're on a giant spaceship right now, if you really think about that. And we're going really fast, too. To break free of the hold of gravity, to reach out to the vastness of space. You spend all your time, money, energy to make sure that in the moment when your payload reaches the apex of its flight, your rig takes the pictures and sends you the data like this. There's just, I've found so many of these pictures, and I had to narrow it down to some of the ones that I thought were really fantastic. It's really amazing what you can get with a camera. If anyone's looking for these pictures, I can send them to you. This was a more recent batch of photos from someone that launched with our balloon, Kent Wood. I think Zach has one in here soon. That's the Rocky Mountains through Colorado from NOAA. That was with that GMD. There's Zach, nice little cloud cover from Project Traveler. So at Kaymont, we want to bring you the balloons that are going to get you the best launch. And thanks for listening, guys. Yeah, no problem.
And for the 5-pound payload, the one I'm doing right now is 1,000 feet.
87 with 5